Hi everyone, how are you doing? So, I want to talk all things freedom today, and I thought what better way to talk about freedom than whilst I was being free in the forest. So hopefully I will have enough signal to see me through this live. If you are watching this or on the replay, let me know, say hello so I know I'm not talking to myself. And I want to talk freedom because one of the biggest underlying reasons for so many people that I speak to is freedom. I'm just trying to figure out which is the best way to go talking freedom. It underlies everything. So when I think about why I do certain things, or why I set my business up in a certain way, why I left corporate to move into my business, it was for freedom. And I want to talk about what freedom means to me, and I'd love to know what freedom means to you in comments as well. So for me, freedom is to work when I want, where I want, with who I want, to go places that I desire to go. So when my body, so let me know if this resonates with you, I'll sometimes get this like soul calling. So last week I went to Scotland. It was like, this is my soul home, I need to go to Scotland. So getting that calling and being able to follow it. I had the same thing happen with Glastonbury, I had the same thing happen with Australia. This knowing comes in, and then being able to follow that. That could even be exactly what I'm doing right now. My soul had a calling to share this freedom and greenery with you today. So it is the freedom to follow through on those messages that come through no matter what. The freedom to have everything that you desire. And these could be big things or they could be small things. Like, even like silly example, today I've got some noise cancelling headphones and I was using them today when I was writing some posts, and I had some music playing, and for me that is freedom. That is freedom for me to be in my own world, tuned out to any noise and being totally focused on what I am doing without, hearing the door or the dogs barking or the cat meowing or, even like, it could be even a little thing like that. That is freedom to me. So let me know what freedom means to you in comments. And then the other thing is where we come in to masculine and feminine energetics. And this is where this combination of energy is really important. So I remember when I first left my corporate job, and it was like, way, I'm free, I can do what I want, and I ended up in toxic feminine because I was so rejecting of the masculine structures, because corporate had led me to burnout. So because toxic masculine, aka corporate, my 15 years in financial services, where I had the dream career in HR, I had the dream career, and that was not enough for me. I ended up leaving and setting up my business. But because I was so scared of the toxic masculine structures, so scared of them because I'd been in burnout, when I left corporate, I ended up in toxic feminine. So I had no boundaries, really, or very leaky boundaries. I was just like, yeah, I'll go meet this person for a coffee, and that person wants to meet for a coffee, so that's nice. And oh, I should do networking because that's what I'm being told I should do. Like, we should do networking. So I was going to running around the whole country, doing all these networking events and just being really burnt out. And also because I've always been just a very natural listener, and people just tell me their problems. Like, I'll be sat on the train and someone will just tell me their life story. I've always had this. So I would go to these networking events and people were just it was like I'd turned into the therapist in the room. So I was doing all these things, but none of these things were really making forward momentum in my business because I wasn't actually giving myself the space And ironically, I wasn't giving myself the freedom. So even though I'd left corporate for freedom, this is another beautiful tree. Even though I'd left corporate for freedom, I then actually took myself away from freedom. So I'd been in toxic masculine, and then because I was so scared of that masculine energy, I ended up in toxic feminine and actually not having any freedom at all because I didn't have the required boundaries in place. And then when I worked through all of this and I had all of those lessons, this is where I started to bring the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine in together. And this is what we are working through. We actually start Quantum Femme today. If you haven't got your spot yet, the program will be going up in the next round. I can pop the link below. It's not too late to join. You can still join today. But we need to have the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine together. And it is the feminine that leads. Remember, the feminine leads. For so many of us, we have been in the past so used to the masculine leading. Like, how many of us hear that, you know, we work now, play later. You know, for me at school, like, do your exam revision, then you can go out and play. You go to work, you go to school, then you can come home and rest and play. Okay, so a lot of us, it's so ingrained in us to lead from the masculine, and then we do the resting thing later. And this, unfortunately, is not the most optimal use of our energy, because we're spending all our energy on the masculine, and for a lot of us, the toxic masculine. And then we don't have that space for the divine downloads to come in, for our gifts to come in, for our clairs to come online, for us to have that space to channel, to create, or that space to just be and to just work through and hold ourselves through those up levels. My hand is vibrating as I'm saying that. It's not my phone, it's my hand. Like some kind of energy activation is going on here. We can then hold ourselves through what we are going through in any given moment. So the feminine needs to lead. So when we flip this around and we lead from that space of the feminine, remember we pull back. So I've talked about this analogy of the bow and arrow before. So when we come back and we pull back and we pull back and we pull back, this might mean like coming off our phones. So, you know, I go on retreats where I turn my phone off for days. Whatever that means to you, that pulling back, and that resting and that just being. And these for me are also the days where I don't have any plans. So today is my content day, so I know I do my content today, but I don't have anything set in stone. I don't have any times, I don't have any plans, and I just free flow through the day. So today is a very feminine day for me, but it's then balanced with that masculine doing. So I'm putting content out there and I'm bringing in that masculine to then birth it into the world. Okay, so when we start from this place of the feminine, it is so much more energy optimal for us because of that bow and arrow, because we're pulling back. And of course, when we pull back, that forward momentum of that bow and arrow is so much more powerful, so much more efficient, so much more directive, because we've created that tension. And it's also that tension that magnetizes things to us. So have you ever found when you have like gone away or switched off from everything, went into nature, turned your phone off, that suddenly you start to get random things? Like I'll get things like random Instagram followers, or even just small little payments coming in, or people asking me for things. And it's because you start to create that tension of like that arrow pulling back. You're creating that tension, and that is creating a magnetic effect and is pulling those things to you. And this is why it works. This is why we need to lead from the feminine. And another thing that I found, which we're going to be doing this week in Quantum Femme, is that positive psychology and feminine-led business and feminine-led leadership is exactly the same thing. But positive psychology has only, like in research, has only been used, other than my own personal research and my own personal, I've been using positive psychology in my life for 10 years now, and in my business for 8 years now. And one of the things that I found is that when we take positive psychology, not just as a well-being tool, but as a how do we feel great, and then how do we not only bring those positive emotions into helping us feel better, but how do we start from that place of flourishing? How do we start from that place of pleasure and nourishment? So this is why I'm in the woods today, because it was like, this feels good for me to come into the woods and be here today, but also to share this space with you and to bring this, like, this is like the masculine energy of me then birthing this into creation, into this video with you. So one of the things that I found is I started to work more fully with feminine embodiment in about 2020. This also saw me through when I had to leave my marriage. I was majorly in my feminine then, and what this truly meant really dropped in then, because I had to, oh, there's a big bee. I chose to, that's a really interesting sign. Those ladies that are in quantum alignment right now, that moment there when we saw that bee, I chose to move myself through that stage and move myself through my divorce from that space of, like, it's a very noisy bird as well, very, very epic self-love. I was loving myself to the maximum levels. I was loving myself. One of the things that I looked at was, how can I love myself how I want to be loved? I want someone to treat me like an absolute queen. I want to be worshipped. So how can I worship myself? How can I treat myself as that queen? And that is what I did. And then that is what led to me meeting my soulmate, because I was in that energy. I was vibrating at that energy of queen, and my soulmate dropped in to meet me at that level. Okay, when we don't do this work, this is then when we attract trauma bonds, so aka twin flame experiences, that trigger the hell out of us, because we are attracting from our trauma, we are attracting from our shadow, and that is then showing us the work that we need to do. That relationship is a mirror. So my relationship was a mirror to the self-love that I had given myself. But before I went through that, I ended up in a bit of a trauma bond experience, which was a mirror for my trauma and a mirror for the growth that I needed to do, which was basically feminine-led leadership. So it is all one of the same. And this is what true freedom means, is bringing together and alchemizing these healthy and divine masculine energies to create structures and boundaries and do the aligned action, and having the feminine energy and leading from that space of giving yourself space and rest and nourishment. A lady's just seen me doing a video and has turned around and walked the other way. She could have come in, it's fine. She wouldn't be in it. Yeah, this has just transformed everything. So true freedom is about what freedom means for you. So let me know in comments, what does freedom mean to you? And then secondly, true freedom is where we alchemize and blend those energies of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and leading from that divine feminine space is what gives us the freedom. So we're leading from that space of freedom, but not in a way that I'm going to call this out. This is where I see it come up, where toxic feminine is playing out. When I hear women saying, I'm just free and easy and I go with the flow, and what's really happening behind the scenes is they're so far in their toxic feminine, they're people pleasing, they're doing everything everyone else wants them to do, they're moving through their days with chaos because they've got no structure and no plans, and then they're making themselves feel better by saying, oh, I'm just free and easy and in my feminine. That's actually toxic feminine, okay? Divine feminine is very different, and it is led from that space of freedom, and then it brings the masculine in with it, and the masculine creates that container. So as I shared with you earlier, today is my content day. So I've got my container, and if a friend asked me to do something today, I would say no, because Tuesdays are my content day. So I've got that container, but within that I can flow within that space. Okay, so I've got the boundaries, the structures, and then the feminine flow to just be within that space, and this is how these two work together. So it's not too late to join Quantum Femme. I've just opened the Telegram group and the Facebook group. I am so excited about this space, and day one activity that I've posted in is just going to be so much fun. So it's not too late to join. We're working through Pleasure Queen this week. We've got Shadow Queen in the middle with a breathwork session for you in the middle. Then we have got Quantum Queen, and we're going to be working in the quantum field. I'm going to be bringing some of this quantum research. When I was in Scotland last week, I was geeking out on quantum research. I'm going to be bringing some of this quantum research into this space as well to create magic and miracles. But of course, we need to work through week 1 Pleasure Queen, week 2 Shadow Queen, and then we move into Quantum Queen. So I'll pop the link in comments. It's not too late to join. You can catch up with day 1. It is super flexible. Each day is just a few minutes of a transmission that I'm popping into the Telegram group, and then you've got the space to come in and ask questions, and I'll be doing a live to answer all of your questions that come up for you each week. So excited. Let me know what freedom means to you, and I'm sending you all lots of love.